The Wayans Brothers are back in charge after 25 years, trying to bring the series back to its roots. This is Scary Movie.
So it's been about 13 years since we've gotten Scary Movie 5. Like you mentioned in the intro, it's been about 25 years since the Wayans were in control of the series. They got control of it back, and they launched this ginormous, marketing campaign of, hey, we're coming out here to bring this series back to its roots. We're going to be offensive. We're going to be over the top. We're going to have, we're going to poke fun at everything and everyone. And what we got out of this movie was, I think, a movie that had its moments where it was funny. Like, there were some funny, laughable moments of this, but I really feel like it suffered from trying too hard sometimes in a lot of ways that unfortunately was a detriment to this. I've been seeing a lot of people since we've watched it kind of comparing it to like a bad SNL episode, almost like feeling like a long series of SNL skits within a movie. And I kind of agree with that sentiment in some senses, because like, you do get a lot of our favorite characters returning and interacting. Obviously, the Wayans brothers are back in it, which I love both of their characters. I love Shorty. I love Ray. They're very funny characters, but I feel like this was such a hit and miss movie for me that there are parts that are very, very funny, but then there are parts that are so bad and so over the top and so not funny because it's trying too hard to be funny, and they think it's kind of offensive, but I didn't really come out of any bit of the movie offended by anything.
Nothing
like,
really felt that they went that far.
Right. And that I don't know if they were playing it too safe, but they tried. I gave them credit for like trying to do some stuff. I love a lot of the things they were parodying, and some of it was, like I said, done very well and very funny, but so much of it was just a big, messy miss for me in a lot of ways. I'm curious to hear what you have to think.
Yeah, like we knew they were coming back out, and the Wayans brothers were back in charge. They only did the first two, but we didn't know when the first trailer and everything was going to drop, and we were watching, I can't remember which film we were watching. It was a rated R, horror, I believe, that we were watching, and we got the trailer dropped, and I laughed so hard at that trailer. I was so excited. I was smiling. I had so much fun with I laughed more at the trailer than I did at the actual movie, which is a sad part, and I think you hit it right on the nose. It was trying too hard and trying to force everything. Yeah. It kind of felt like, to me, like a comedian who's had a joke book that they've been writing their jokes in for 25 years, and it doesn't matter if the jokes were good or bad or in between. They just kind of threw absolutely everything that they had in that joke book, because you didn't have any time to breathe. It was one gag after another, after another, after another, and very little of them worked. Like, I chuckled, but I can't remember a time I really laughed other than maybe at the very end with some of the cameos and the craziness that happened at the end.
It was very fun.
Like, I love the first two Scary Movies that the Wayans brothers did. I went back and watched them not too long ago, and I laughed, and I had a great time, and it was a lot of fun and very smartly done. And it's supposed to be dumb and ridiculous and over the top and stupid and whatever you want to do with it. But this was just... It almost felt like everyone was phoning in. Like, it didn't feel like even the actors, even the Wayans brothers themselves, felt like they were really feeling what they were doing. Even like Ray, who's always been the butt of the joke of being gay but hiding it and everything else, he felt like he was just almost a set piece at times. Like, he really had very little emotion, just kind of just looked like he was going through the motions. And that's kind of what I felt like almost all the characters were doing. And then you have the newer, younger cast who, there's a couple daughters. There's Tuesday and Sarah felt like she was just trying to mimic and imitate Anna Faris there as Cindy. Like, you're trying to say, okay, yes, this is her daughter, and then Tuesday's just, a Wednesday ripoff, which I was hoping there might be a few more chuckles out of that. But yeah, it just felt like, I think it tried to do too much, because it was trying to do jokes of racism about both sides, white and black and all around. And you had the Me Too, and you had transgender stuff, because, with Marlon Wayans and his connection to poking fun at even something that's very dear and serious to his heart. But you're spoofing 20 to 30 different movies and TV shows and events and things that have happened, where it just felt like you weren't building up any jokes. You were just throwing them out there and seeing what stuck. And 90% of them didn't stick. Like like I said, I chuckled, but I rarely ever laughed at this film.
Yeah, I could genuinely tell you were not feeling this film when we went and watched it. But it does have some of its humorous moments. But it does feel like they took about, like you said, they had a joke catalog of about 20 years worth of jokes, and they tried to get them all out in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like, it felt very gagged, but to kind of set you up for a little bit of context. So this movie very much follows, as a baseline, not saying the entire movie is set up similar, but it's a very similar baseline that it's parodying Scream 5. So Scream 5 is kind of like the basic, like if you've seen Scream 5, that's kind of how the plot flows for this. Now it does get into some more modern horror, like you have a little bit of poking fun at sinners, a little bit more like some more modern stuff. Like I thought the Get Out scene was pretty funny, like when they're parodying like Get Out and stuff into a very, very unexpected cameo of a very popular like K-pop movie on Netflix that was everywhere last year. It had a very ridiculous like music number and stuff like that, but it does kind of implement elements of every like popular horror movie of the last 5 to 10 years, I would say, and trying to get stuff in on that, while also following a through line of the plot from Scream 5, because it was basically using that as your foundation and kind of diverting off into a rapid fire of other things. Like I said, I will say, like, there's a lot of negative about this movie, and deservedly so, but some of the stuff that did get right were some of the parodies. Like I said, that was fun. There's a very fun cameo parody of one of, if not the top streamer on Twitch that, they brought in to have like a fun moment with the Ghostface Killer. And
just has a lot of people mixed too, because there's some controversies around him and things that he's so.
But I mean, like mimicking the type of like just how popular streaming is now, and the Twitch thing, and you've got arguably the biggest person in streaming on Twitch, who is not without his controversies and everything. But either way, you got the top of the food chain there, and like the top person to bring in. And if you know anything about Twitch and streaming, you already know who that is. But I won't spoil it for everybody. But like they do kind of a good job of parodying some of the silly and absurdness of like those types of streams. And I didn't get to completely see it, but I heard the Substance one was very funny, including
you took a bathroom break at the wrong time.
I did. I missed one, and I'm very disappointed. And now I have to find that clip online, or God forbid, watch this movie again. But it everything else, it tried so hard to be funny that it felt forced, and it wasn't as organically funny. And as smartly written, I would say, as the first two Scary Movies. I even like Scary Movie 3. Like, I
3, 4, and 5 have their moments, but they're nothing like the Wayans had before. Like 1 and 2 were comedy gold.
Yeah, fantastic. And it felt like a lot of that was lost in this. And I don't know if it's just because it's been so long since those movies came out. I mean, early 2000s, they lean into some of that early 2000s humor, which does work at times, but not as much throughout the entire film as you would hope. And it's just a little bit too missing from what they're trying to do here. And it's just a hot mess. I mean, that's the best way I could describe it.
This movie felt like extreme ADHD on crack. It was just like it.
It's a good way of putting it.
It didn't really know kind of what it wanted to do. Like the other ones had somewhat of a plot that you're moving through and you're doing things, and the parodies are something to help move things along and be funny and be like that. Again, this just felt like 100 different sketches kind of put together into a film, because you even get the Sinners one, which was kind of funny, but it's with 3 of the main characters, with the other main characters acting like they don't really even know each other again. And it was just strange and odd how they put it all together. Like, it just didn't feel like cohesiveness with anything. You had, even with Cindy, felt so different in almost every scene, because you're parodying from Final Destination and John Wick and Scream, and she's playing 30 different versions of Cindy in this film, while you also have Regina Hall, who's always been fantastic as Brenda. Like, you just can't help but love her in this role. And I still loved her in this role, but she was basically Ma throughout the whole thing. Yeah. And that's the only thing she was parodying. So it was that weird type of, all right, Cindy, you're going to be 30 different versions of Cindy. You're going to be Ma. Like, they didn't do a whole lot of, and Shorty's, I mean, you get Shorty, he's being the streamer and he's being Unc, and you're dealing with, you know, new age language and everything with that. But it just, everything felt forced. Like, it just wasn't, it didn't feel like they felt confident about their jokes, so they just kept throwing as many in as they possibly could fit in. Like, it just, even comedies that are spoofing and crazy over the top, and I go back to their first two Scary movies, you got to have a little bit of time for those jokes to land and breathe and to work them, build them up and work them in and everything else. And it just, like I said, it's just, all right, let's just read out of this joke book that we've had for 25 years, and that's our movie. Like, it just didn't take time to really set up the good humor. It tried to do too much. Yeah. Is the biggest thing with this. It tried to do, again, it parodies and pokes fun at 30 to 40, maybe even up to 50 different subjects. And that, like I said, goes from new age language and how kids are these days to transgender and everything else. Sure. Like with that, and then 20 different franchises that they're messing with and dealing with, and it just, and then you throw in 10, 15 different cameos and stuff. It just, I knew from the rip, because we kind of went into it like, we love the trailer, everything we've seen out of it, we can't wait. Like, I had, maybe it's because I went in with high expectations. All right, the Wayans brothers have the rights back to us. You know, one of their older brothers did A Living Color back in the day, which was a phenomenal sketch TV show that unfortunately ended because of a lot of politics and crap between them and Fox. But that was one of the most brilliant sketch comedy shows they've done. And, you know, and they even poke fun at it, there's 100 billion Wayans that exist in the world right now and in Hollywood. But it just kind of lost that smartness that the first two Scary movies had, that in Living Color. And, you know, Keenan Ivory Wayans, I don't think really had anything to do with this. And you've got some of the other Wayans who didn't show up. You got a few other Wayans who did show up in this movie, but it lost that smart humor that they have, that I know that they have, and I know that they still have with stuff. It just felt like they just take a box of jokes, dump it down, and film it.
It's a shot. It's a instead of it being a shotgun blast, it's a machine gun blast where you're just spraying jokes everywhere at this point and kind of seeing which ones land. Like I said, there are bits in the movie that do work, but there's some bits that just don't. And you just go so far and so fast and so, like, just rip through all of them. It's like, okay, we want to get in touching on this. And you're just like, did you have to touch all of them? Like, you didn't like, you could have saved some of those for another movie. Spoiler alert, this movie's doing, despite what we're saying about it, it's still doing very well, and there's a very high possibility that Scary Movie 7 is going to get made.
And I hope that they are able to fix some of the problems with it.
Sure, but you could have saved some of this for the next one.
You could have saved it for about 5 more Scary movies really with how much they crammed in
because they tried to touch on so many different things. I'm like, well, what are you going to touch on next? Because you get references to so many of the popular horror movies even in the last several years. Like you said, you had Get Out, you had The Substance, you had Weapons, you had Sinners.
Weapons was probably the one I laughed a bit more at.
It was very funny.
Almost everything else was a chuckle. That one was pretty funny.
You had that, you had Long Legs even was kind of referenced in it. Like, you had so many different things that you could have pulled from that you could have saved for another movie. It's almost like they were so afraid that they aren't going to be able to make another one that they got them all in now.
They just threw in every idea.
This is our one shot to get it. We're going to get everything in there. And I think it's to the detriment of the movie.
Yep.
I really do, because you have so many fun things you could have saved for another one had you focused a little bit more on the ones that worked a little bit better. But they threw it all against the wall here, and unfortunately it bogs down so much of the movie that you're spending more time just like, oh yeah, they're making fun of this now. Like, rather than being entertained by the story that they're telling and getting hit with the funny jokes when they're done well and they work right. Because and some of the scenes that they do kind of take a little bit more of their time with are the ones that work.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just get the rapid blast just to, like you said, check a box of, okay, we're referencing this, we have to reference this, and it's just like, why did you have to touch all of these movies now? Because you could have done a little bit more with this, or you could have done a little bit more with that. And it's unfortunate because the bones were there, because there's so much good things to parody, especially in the time that they haven't had to parody these movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of things you could have done, and I just felt like they got so caught up in trying to touch on everything that they didn't save enough to focus a little bit on making a little bit better of a movie, and then run it back in the next one and really hit it on the next one too, because you could have had opportunities. Like, yeah, guess what? If they make Scary Movie 7, they're probably going to touch on Backrooms and Obsession and probably a couple of the other ones. Another one I really did laugh at, though, was the Brosferatu, the Nosferatu parody. That was
some credit scenes.
I had a fun time, like, laughing at that one too, but it's a credit scene and it's not part of the movie. It's like another box to check. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you could have saved that for part 7. Like, what do you do?
Even as you mentioned the long legs, like, there's a brief mention to it, but it's mainly a credit scene that you get that in there. Yes. And Chris Elliott is brilliant. He's so coming funny back is that with the small hand, but playing, long legs with it and stuff. But then I felt like Damon Wayans Jr. was as a police detective and other stuff like that. Like, there were some funny bits about it. So you get into a little bit of racism about how they're looking for a serial killer who's standing next to a black guy, and the cops go and beat the black guy and stuff. I chuckled, but Chris Elliott was fun, but you just barely gave him anything to do. And I like Damon Wayans Jr. He's been fantastic in Shrinking and other things, but here he's trying to play that, tough cop. I'm just going to talk like this the whole time. Yeah, my neighbor's banging my wife. And, like, it just kind of fell flat with the way that they did the detectives in there. So that's the kind of problem I had in the end. Like, I was so excited to see this. I wanted to see something dumb and stupid and over the top and ridiculous and laugh at the absurdity of the stuff as I have with the previous ones, but it needed to chop 50 to 75% of the references that it did in this so it can allow the other main references and jokes to breathe and to be set up and to have that punchline. It just felt like most of these jokes had the setup, but it never really had a punchline. Yeah. Or you had a punchline and you had no setup, and you're just kind of scratching your head like, okay, I get the reference, but you didn't really make a solid joke out of it. Like, and they also ruined, I say, a few jokes that probably would have been funnier if it wasn't in the trailer. Sure. It's one where I was excited from the trailer, and I almost felt disappointment very early on. Like, the opening sequence felt very flat. Like, there was some fun to it, but it felt really flat, and it just kind of moved on to the next thing, and it was just like, all right, I kind of already have a feeling of how this is going to go, and it went exactly kind of how I was expecting. Yeah. It just tried to do too much in a single film, as you said. Like, cut out majority of it. Have 15 to 20 instead of 50 to 70 references in here, and you're going to have a much tighter, better movie where you can really focus and concentrate on those jokes and those references and have them hit a little bit harder. It was just of trying to do too much in an hour and a half movie. Like, we're talking about 50 plus references in an hour and a half. That's why it just felt like so rushed, so phoned in, and just trying way too hard to just force as much as they possibly could in this. And we even saw from the trailers, they cut out a lot of stuff. There's a Squid Game reference. There's many other references that they did that they cut out. So I'm curious how much more they even tried to cram in that they left on the cutting room floor after this amount. Like, if they do a 7th one, I'll see it, but I'll be very reserved and apprehensive about it because it was a letdown for me. Like, I loved what they did with 1 and 2. I can tolerate 3, 4, and 5 bits and pieces. It has, those two have major problems. Sure. This one has major problems too, and it's very disappointing because I really like the Wayans Brothers. I can't talk today. What they do and the comedy that they did doing these spoofs, and we've seen, like, they just redid The Naked Gun, and they try to do that in modern day, and we felt like that worked really well. This spoof did not work.
Not cohesively as much as it did, because I think it just suffers so much from trying to check all those boxes of references in one film. Like I said, it very much felt to me like they were so worried about not being able to make a seventh one that they tried to shove it all into this one, and it did it to the detriment of the movie. Like that's like I said, there's parts of it where I was genuinely laughing, like, okay, that's very funny. But then there was just some of them just like, what are we like? That's not good. That didn't hit like it, at least not for me. I've seen very, very like opposite ends of people like how they feel about this movie, and it's very extreme. Like I'm seeing like some people are giving it such high ratings, like, oh, this feels much like that does. But as someone who saw them and I would feel like the right age to appreciate those as a 18 to 21 year old who like got into that style of comedy and enjoyed those things as much as I did back when they happened, and now we're coming back to it now, and it didn't unfortunately hit the same way for me. You kind of wonder, like, is there a future for this type of parodying if it can be done right? But you just worry, like, if they do get a seventh movie, what are they even going to parody at this point? Like, there's still stuff that they could go after, but you almost wonder, is like, did they shoot too much into this one? And I say the answer is yes. Like,
absolutely,
we'll see.
Too
like,
much.
I'm going to have very unfortunately different expectations if and when they make a seventh one with all of them back than I did coming out of this one. And that's unfortunate because like we both had I was super excited for this movie, and I kind of felt very similar to you. Like once we got past, like I enjoyed the first part of the opening bit, and then it kind of rolled downhill the wrong way a little bit once it got past that, and I'm like, okay, I think I kind of know what we're in for. And it unfortunately shifted my expectations for the movie going through it, and just trying to keep up with everything that they were trying to do in here, and it didn't hit for me the way I'd hoped it would, which is unfortunate because I love this type of comedy. I love the way these films are made, but it didn't hit the right notes for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just so disappointing. That's what I felt, and that's what I kind of felt through the whole movie. It was just like kind of ready for it to be over because I just don't see that they're going to save it, and they never really did. Like I said, the very end,
the final act was great.
The final act was pretty fun and good and done pretty well because they had got 50 other references out, so they kept it down.
I did enjoy the end.
Kept it down low, and you got them bringing cameos in that made sense because you brought people back who've been in scary movies and have connections to the Wayans and just everything else. Like I expected offensive jokes and sexual jokes and ridiculous, stupid jokes and poop jokes and everything else. Like I went in knowing exactly what I'm going to get out of this. Right. It was just a problem of them shoving way too much stuff into it. Like if they could have reduced the amount of stuff by 50% and focused on just a few franchises and a few jokes at the real world and everything else, it would have been much tighter and much cleaner and much better. They didn't allow the comedy to breathe to me. Yeah. And I will say, we had a pretty mostly packed theater for this showing. It was a fan event that we went to for it, and it was pretty quiet in there. Yeah. We heard some laughs. Yeah. Mostly the same time we were laughing stuff we didn't laugh at. The rest of the theater didn't laugh. And we had multiple walkouts. I was kind of so aggravated at how they were failing the comedy in this that I was people watching as people got up to see, all right, there's a couple people, let me see if they come back or if they're just going to the bathroom. They didn't come back. Like we had several walkouts in our theater, and I don't fully blame them. Like I came in wanting to laugh and have just a ridiculous dumb time in the theater, and we've harped on it and beat it over the head. They tried too hard and crammed too much stuff into it that it kind of failed almost all the jokes that they try to do. There are some good moments, but when they're crammed in between 1,000 other jokes, just none of the jokes landed like they wanted it to. It just fell flat because they tried to put too much into it.
Yeah, and like we've seen instances where like if you can do the rapid fire jokes and do them well, like it works. Case in point, the Naked Gun remake is just wham, bam, wham, bam, wham, bam. We were cackling at that movie, like genuinely laughing, very funny, very smart, very well done. It just didn't hit the same way for this one, unfortunately, where they were trying to be rapid fire with the jokes too. And enough of them didn't land that it just started to really drag the movie down, and it's unfortunate. Like I said, the positive I will take away from it, I did like the final act of the movie. I thought the final act was good. But like you said, that was after they already got all the other stuff out of the way, and they're here towards the end of the movie, and we're like, okay, this is where we're at. This is where I can see where they're going now. I enjoyed that part of it, but unfortunately, it took too long to get to that point, and if we could have had that quality in the movie throughout the entire movie, I'd have a very different opinion on this film.
Yeah, I think it bombed pretty heavily in the beginning. That by the time it got to that third act, you almost didn't care anymore.
Sure.
That you kind of wanted it to be over, and I hated that because I love the first two, and like I said, I went back and watched them, and they were still really funny and
Very funny.
really good because there was some breathing to it. This just didn't allow any of the comedic moments to have a breath with it, and they went back to the well for a lot of old jokes as well, which can be fun, but they also mostly fell flat with that too, because it was like, hey, you remember this part? And okay, what's the real big joke?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I chuckled at one of them, and I'm not going to go too deep in it because we try to keep it a little bit clean, but there was a joke about a police officer in there and something about his body that you have Ghostface poking fun at, and I giggled at that, but it was just too far and few in between the laughs and the jokes that we got in here. Like, it just, I'm disappointed that I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that it wasn't as good. And I'm happy for those who did get enjoyment out of it and stuff. It tried too hard. And I really hope for Scary Movie 7, if they do get to come back and do it, that they're a little more reserved. Like, they find a focus. I think the biggest thing this lacked was a focus on the type of humor, because it went to it was just a roller coaster of every single type of deadpan and slapstick and gross and sexual, and it tried and failed to nail any of them. They didn't really nail any of the comedic ways that they try to tell these jokes, and it's just, I'm just disappointed by it, and it sucks. I went into it, and we both kind of texted each other, I hope this is funny, and we both said that before. We had hopes, and we wanted to come in and have such a great time with this film, and it just failed.
It's so unfortunate. Like you said, our expectations were through the roof. We love the originals, and it didn't have the right balance of what we like in it, because we're all for, like, before anybody like flames us out in the comments for it, like, we don't have any issues with offensive jokes, and when they're done well, like, I don't take any like offense for that. Like, none of that really bothers me. Like, that type of thing. I think if it's done right, you're allowed to, it's okay to laugh and poke fun at things without, minimalizing it, you know what I mean? But, like, I'm not offended by offensive jokes. I'm really not. So, like, that's not an issue for me. I wanted to be offended watching this movie. I wanted to feel a certain way. I'm like, I kind of wanted that out of this, and I just unfortunately didn't get it, because I think they were trying too hard and didn't have maybe the right way of poking fun at certain things, and it unfortunately just missed the mark in so many levels on that for me, which is why I'm as disappointed with this movie as I am.
Yeah, so Scary Movie in the end was a failed reboot for us. It just tried way too hard, crammed in way too many references and jokes that it didn't allow the setups to happen. It didn't allow the punchlines to hit. Like, it was just about cramming in as much as possible and going on to the next bit. And it just felt like it lost the charm that the originals had. You can be offensive. You can do any type of joke in here, and we can appreciate it and have fun and laugh at it. But the offensive, non-offensive references to the real world, to other franchises and stuff, just very little worked in this film. Like, the third act probably worked better than any other part of the film, but by that time you kind of stopped caring about what they were doing in this, because it felt phoned in, it felt just cramped, and you just weren't having a good time by the time the film ended, which is really disappointing, because I had high hopes coming into it. I'm probably going down to, I think I'm giving this like a 3.5. Like, I had such a rough time with this. I wanted to be entertained by it because I loved the first two. The third one's still enjoyable. 4 and 5 have a lot of issues. I wanted to see them after 25 years to bring Scary Movie back to where it was when we were the teenagers watching it. And unfortunately, it just tried too hard, but then didn't try hard enough. It's just the weird thing, like they were trying really hard, but then it felt like they were phoning it in. It's just that weird dynamic of they did too much, but then again, it felt like they did too little to try to make this work.
Yeah, I mean, I had a very solid number in mind when I walked out of the theater. I almost had an immediate score for this movie, and having time to think about it, I don't think it's changed. And I was giving it a 4.5 out of 10. Like, it's got moments that work. There are genuinely funny moments in this movie. Like I said, the saving grace of this movie is the final act. Like, when you get to that final act, it's fun. It's really good. Like, had we gotten that for more of the movie, I would score this movie significantly higher. Like you said, they took so much effort to make sure they checked every single box of things that they could parody in this. Like, it almost felt like they were desperately trying to make this movie without hopes of ever making another one. Yeah. So we're going to get all the references that we can. And I think at the end of the day, that hurt the movie. And it really brought it down. Like I said, there's going to be plenty of people who thought this was genius and hilarious and comedic. There are some funny moments in that, but it just wasn't enough, wasn't as cohesive, wasn't as well done as they had done in their previous films, in my opinion, because I'm in the same boat as you. Scary Movie 1 and 2 are classic parody movies. Some of my favorite. I still like going back and watching those movies. They're still very funny. And this one, while they tried to replicate that, it doesn't have the same magic as those ones did, over 20 years ago. And that's unfortunate because there are a lot of good things to parody, but they focused on trying to get so many of them crammed in that it really brought down the quality of this movie for me, unfortunately. And hopefully, if they do get to make Scary Movie 7, which by the looks of the box office, they are going to probably get the opportunity to, because I think it's going to be the number one movie this week. I mean, obviously, by the time this comes out, we'll know. But I have a feeling they'll get the opportunity to make another one. And hopefully, when they do that, they can kind of take a little bit of a breath, because there's good humor in there, and see what works, capitalize on it, and kind of replicate that in the next film that you do. And hopefully we'll have a better time seeing that one. Like, I'll still give it a chance, but my expectations for that are significantly lower, having gotten through Scary Movie 6, which is unfortunate because, like we said, the expectations were through the roof for this because we were so wanting to come out of this. And a little bit of pulling back behind the curtain for us, we saw this the day after we saw He-Man and the He-Man reboot, and we were buzzing off of it, and we're just like, all right, let's keep the momentum going. Let's go back and get into this and, finish this week strong with two really, really, really solid movies. And we just unfortunately left walking out of it like, it's kind of a bummer. Like, it didn't cap off as strong of a movie week as we were hoping, and that's really unfortunate.
Yes, again, so Sean and Marlon Wayans, they're great writers, they're great comedic presence, including all the other Wayans that had a hand in this. Incredibly and part of talented. It, they're incredibly talented. It felt rushed, it felt cramped, it just felt like no jokes, nothing got a chance to breathe, so they all just land with a thud. And because of how many references are there, you're, I think, spending more time trying to figure out exactly what they're parodying or making fun of or referencing at this point to really be focusing to laugh or anything else. Like, I'll probably watch this again when it gets digital just to see if maybe there's a chance of my mood going into it or something else. But like I said, we watched Masters of the Universe the night before. I laughed more at that movie than I did with this one. And it wasn't anything on any of the actors or anything else. It was too cramped. It was too much stuff. Like, you're, again, talking 40, 50, 60, 70 type of references and spoofs and skits and everything in an hour and a half. That is a lot. Even the greatest comedy writers are going to have a heck of a time doing something like that in an hour and a half. There's just way too much crammed in there. So, yeah, hopefully if there is this Scary Movie, I keep wanting to say Scream 7 just because of how much it
so similar
parodies, and it's parodying mostly Scream with it all. But yeah, it needed to take a step back and not try to cram 25 years of jokes that they've been saving up and doing, plus combining it with all the modern stuff. It needed some time to breathe. It needed to let the setups happen, and it needed to let the punchlines hit, and very few did. That's what disappointed me the most. Like, I enjoy everybody who was a part of this and who's been part of the Scary Movie franchise, but it just felt like too much. It was just too much to really enjoy anything in here.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place to kind of end it there, because it feels like, you know, we're saying the same things, but
beating
it's just
a dead horse.
Yeah, we're unfortunately just beating a dead horse here, and it's unfortunate. Like you said, please come to our comment section. Let us know what you thought of it. We'd love to hear some other opinions on this, because they are so varied and wide ranging in how people are feeling about it. Obviously, you have the ride or die diehard fans of this franchise really going after people who are critical of the movie for whatever reason. Like, I get it, you love the franchise. Spoiler alert. We do too. Like, we're fans of the movies. But everybody knows there's a noticeable dip in quality after the first couple films that, you know, you can't dispute it. I mean, you can still get enjoyment out of those other movies as well, but you can clearly see a dip in quality. And unfortunately, this didn't bring it back to its former glory like we were hoping it would. But, you know, we'll see if they get another chance, because Scary Movie 6 is out in theaters now. Go check it out. Let us know what you think about it. It's going to probably lead to a Scary Movie 7, which hopefully they can pull the nose up on the plane and give us a better film that we'll be able to come on here and talk about in better terms.
So thank you so much for tuning in. And if you feel so inclined, do all the things to help the show out, from follows, shares, likes, and comments on social media to subscribing on YouTube and your favorite audio platforms. All of it helps us out so much, and we can't thank you enough for all the support.
You can also become a subscriber over on Patreon to get each episode delivered to you early, exclusive merch items, and your name read out at the end of every episode. Check it out at patreon.com/we'll bring the popcorn.
That's going to do it for this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.